Okay, I'm trying to look for a quote that exemplifies the idea of learning from other people's mistakes. And I thought I'd start the video with that, but I can't find anything, so I'll just make up my own. What I would say is that I'm just gonna get them. Okay, so I wrote my quote, and I think it's pretty cool. Here it is. Learning from our own experience is the best, but when you can effectively learn from other people's experience and make original mistakes, it's better. Cool, right? I actually like it. PB. I wrote that. So anyway, the idea of this video is for me to share some of the books that have really impacted my life and I think are worth rereading. I actually had 7 to 8 books that I want to share with you, but I'm gonna just keep it short and close it down in about 5, maybe 6. All right. I think I'm good at these. So let's just put it like this. One of the books that I'm currently reading is Remember, Be Here Now. I think it's just Be Here Now. It just has Remember on top, but it's written by Baba Ramdas. I believe this was his first book, and if you notice, it's like a sandwich. It's like a chocolate ice cream sandwich. It has white pages, brown pages, and white pages. And let me show you what's interesting. Just look at this. It's one of the most artsy book that I've ever seen. But that doesn't matter. What matters is, let me explain you how this book is broken down. So the first white pages are basically about his life before India, where he was a psychologist. He tried mushrooms and LSD and his whole trip, and how he ended up in India to like seek the truth of the whole thing because it wasn't satisfying to him. These pages are how I would call them, like the truth. And if you meditated enough, like you'd get it. I still don't get the entire thing, but it's just so many like quotes. Like I'll just read something random right out of here. So he's like, love is essentially self-communicative. Those who do not have it catch it from those who have it. True love is unconquerable and irresistible, and it goes on gathering power and spreading itself until eventually it transforms everyone whom touches it. Meher Baba. So he's literally just telling a story throughout these pages, and then after this ends, there is the cookbook for a sacred life, which is actually very interesting. It talks about things like, so the index explains everything that you probably need to know to have like a sacred life, and this book has just indexed it out so beautifully. Everything from like being ready, like about a guru and a teacher, renunciation, tapasya, sleeping, eating, study, what mantras do, transforming energy, pranayams, sexual energy, siddhis, satsang, getting straight, truth, drop out, cop out, money and right livelihood, karma yoga, bhakti yoga, dance, meditation, rational mind, time and space, psychedelics as an upaya, as a solution, the course of sadhana, setting, family sadhana, sadhana if you live alone, dying, and like there's so much to learn. So this is a book that I read every morning and every night, and I haven't currently finished it. And I think this is one book I would read every single year. So I'm just gonna go backward from the books that I've read last come first. Okay, this is a classic. I actually got to know about this book from the owner of Timeless Art Book Studio. You might have seen that place in my other videos. It's just this really nice bookstore in Delhi, and he's actually printed this version of it. It's pocket friendly. It's a small story about what it means to actually be a child and what happens as we grow up. And it's so beautifully written that it's a reflection upon what people end up prioritizing as they grow up throughout time, and what it truly means to be a child, from a perspective of innocence, um, creativity, just being truthful, and so many things. I cannot recommend this book enough. Like, I think any person who's read The Little Prince would say the same thing. So, it's a short little read. You can finish it in 2 hours, 3 hours max. Just get it. If you have read this, if you've heard of this book, I guarantee you that people who have read it must have highly recommended it. My friend Shreya gifted this to me. This is a memoir written by Phil Knight about his story becoming a shoe dog, basically founding Nike. And first of all, besides just the amazing struggles and story that he has and he's shared, that all's okay. The way he has written this book, I have never in my life read anything as fast as this book. I think it is about what, 375, 380 pages. I completed this in 8 or 9 days. Like, I read on average 40 to 50 pages a day, which is a lot more than I usually do. It is so gripping, it is so well written, it has just this ability to magically like transport you in his life and understand his problems and his wins and his mindset and what he was going through. And just like as a person, Phil Knight is such a wonderful soul, because I mean, that's what came across to me by reading this book. He is honest. He doesn't hide the things which he's ashamed of, or the mistakes he's made, or the things he regretted doing. And it's not all of the good stuff. There's so much like stuff that he knew that he could be better. And all of this is shared in this book as lessons for you to take. As I've laughed a lot while reading this book, and you learn a little bit about what it actually takes to start and set up $1 billion company, a giant. Definitely would reread this and would recommend it to everyone. I say that about every book that I'm going to be sharing with you. This one, Autobiography of a Yogi. First of all, is the man who taught Mahatma Gandhi Kriya Yoga. He also speaks about Rabindranath Tagore and a lot of famous Indian personalities that have made an impact in this country. Also, Jobs used to read this. Steve Jobs used to read this book every year, and he also gifted each and every person attending his funeral a copy of this book. Now, all I would say about this book is that every time I read it, I knew like my energies were raised. I was more conscious, I was more aware, I learned something new. I just realized how small a being I am in the vastness of this universe, and how much I actually have to learn. It's like a spiritual guide, is what I'd say, written in the form of a person's story of him. Never speaks about him attaining an enlightenment, but I'm sure that he did. And like what it takes, what his journey was. He speaks about all the mystical things that we hear about. For example, like people, like communicating with each other, like through telepathy, people manifesting two forms of their own body, people being able to, live for thousands of years. Talks about, what is it called? Astral planes. It talks about the causal plane. It talks about like what it takes to reach enlightenment. It talks about how you can like manifest things, and like the law of miracles. It's one of my favorite chapters. And the other chapter that I really like from this book is like the resurrection of Sri Yukteswar. This book is beyond my words. If you truly want to understand quote unquote spirituality, I think this book and Be Here Now are like must reads. This book is a little heavier than Be Here Now. Be Here Now is written for the common man to understand, is how I'll put it. It is not enough to read this book once, because I'm 100% sure every time I read it, I'm going to learn something new. And that is definitely true. I just know it. I can keep talking about it, but I'll still be at a lack of words. But I'm gonna keep this here now. Let's start with the War of Art. My friend Veer from Bombay had gifted this to me the day I left IIDE, my previous workspace, and for anyone wanting to do anything which is in alignment with following your passion, getting to know your purpose, doing what you're meant to do or born to do, this book is something that you need to read. What I really like about this book is that it's not like chapter by chapter. It's like 2-3 page based chapters. There are like probably 100 of them, and the main concepts it speaks about is how it says over here, how to win your inner creative battle. Now, creativity just is not in the form of art. This book starts with a very powerful quote. What I know. There's a secret that real writers know and wannabe writers don't. And the secret is this. It's not the writing part that's hard. What's hard is sitting down to write. What keeps us from sitting down is resistance. So the first half of this book talks about this concept of resistance. The job of resistance is basically to not let you find what you're meant to do in this life. And it is also like a compass, where the more the resistance is something, the more purposeful it can be for you to do that and beat that resistance. And the second part of the book basically talks about how the greatest masters find or create their magnus opus, which is basically like their masterpiece, and what it takes to be able to do that. So it's kind of mystical in the way it explains it, but I think it makes perfect sense. And any artist, anyone trying to pursue a dream or trying to do something that is bigger than themselves and wants to like kind of find their purpose and stuff, the War of Art is a bible for that kind of stuff. Thank you, Stephen Pressfield, for this masterpiece. Definitely one of my favorite books. It is by a man named James Clear. It is known as Atomic Habits. This is like a layman creating habits for himself, sharing his experience, learning from other people, and putting it in this masterpiece of a guide for how to build good habits and break bad ones. What I really like is the way he structured the thing. He practices what he preaches. Even like in the way the book is written, the book is a lot of fun to read as well. And there's just so many examples and great amount of research that he's put into it. I promise you, if you're struggling to basically build a habit or break a bad one, you must read this book. And I believe why it's important to focus on habits is, any result that you want to get in the long term is brought to fruition by actions you take in the short run. And the actions you take in a short run are highly defined by the kind of habits you have. Whatever you want to do, if you build a habit is a way of making sure you do what you want to do without thinking much about it, and it becomes the easy way out. So how do you make the tough thing the easy way is what this book basically talks about. And as Mark Manson says, a supremely practical and useful book. And that's a very good way of actually describing it. Just the last thing I'll say over here is how he divides the book. It's about 4 things. To make a good habit, you do this, and if you want to remove a bad habit, you do the opposite. So you make it obvious, you make it attractive, you make it easy, and you make it satisfying. Those are the 4 pillars that he describes creating good habits and removing bad ones. So that's how the book is divided, and it's very simple for you to actually apply it in your life with these 4 rules. Whew. And now to the 2 bonus books, as I would like to say. This. The man himself, Jocko Willink and Leif Babin and Leif Babin have written this book. They are 2 Navy SEAL officers who, after leaving the Navy, started teaching the lessons that they learned in the Navy. Yeah, anyway, I said I won't speak much about this book. but it is definitely a great book to learn a little bit more about how to be a good leader, how to be more effective, and how to take ownership of the results that you get in your life. And the last book is The Greatest Salesman in the World. It is written by a man named OG Mandino. 14 million copies of this book sold. It's a short little read and it's a great story. He divides it in 14 lessons. Basically talks about a person who is going through this journey to become a better salesman, and he finds these scrolls, and each scroll has like a life lesson. And I think this is one of the most satisfying endings to a book that I've read. I'm like, wow. So this is not about being a great salesman. Like, I mean, yeah, you can become a great salesman, but it talks about how you can be a great person and a great human being and what are great values to have. And those values will result in you being a great salesman. Yes. I'm done. I hope you enjoyed this video. It must have been kind of long, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you watched it all the way. And if you like this, if you have any questions, if you have any other book recommendations, do mention them in the comments below. If you enjoyed watching the video, please do like it, and share your thoughts with me. If you've read any one of these books, tell me what you learned from it, and I will be replying to you in the comments, and I'm actually looking forward to hearing from all of you. I'll see you tomorrow, and peace.